everybody, how are you all doing today? So, I didn't have much time to look around. I did look around a little bit, but not as much as I needed to find what the next step was. I have been looking up other things. I've been taking care of my little brother as well. Been trying to do a few other things. And well, hopefully Jim found what the next step is. Which I'll be joining him right after I do my little sellout speech. So, down in the description below, you will find a link to Power's shop, where you can buy energy mixes, sleep mixes, hydration mixes, and shakers, and even stickers. And if you use creator code BLACKHEART on all caps, you can get a 10% discount on your purchase. And now that that's out of the way, let me turn on the desktop audio and hop on into his stage, which I think he's already finished with his Pega stuff. Give me a second. There we go. I don't know if he's setting up. I don't know, since there is a little bit of delay between what he's doing on his end and his stream. If you guys hear him,
Okay.
oh, there he is. He's starting them right now.
So we're getting back into the Unreal studying session, although we need to kind of talk about that a little bit, which Blackheart's currently in the stage, but I want to address something first before I invite him to speak here.
In that case, I'm gonna.
While we've kind of gone over the quick
Well,
studies and learned a little bit, obviously we're not like foremost experts in the Unreal Engine, and it might still take us a bit of time to still learn all the basics of it. The question is, what is our next steps gonna be? So I feel like we really need to kind of address what the next steps are going to be now that we've kind of got a little bit of a basic on it. But let me go ahead and invite Blackheart in to kind of discuss more about that,
yeah,
and
we'll
we'll
invite me to the stage right now.
We'll go from there. So here we go, there, Blackheart, inviting to speak.
Hello, how you doing?
That yourself?
I'm doing okay.
Feeling better?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good. All right. So, you know, like I just said, we covered the quick starts. You know, the structure, the art, and the programming, right? But obviously, we're not. You know, I'm not going to. You know, I'm definitely not going to be saying, "Oh yeah, we're foremost experts in Unreal now. We can make anything." Yeah, no.
No.
You know, I'd be lying to myself if I said something along those lines. But here's the thing: they don't really have like a really it. You know, I'm looking at their documentation, and it doesn't really give like a. It doesn't really feel like it's very. It doesn't give you like a step-by-step approach of how to learn the Unreal Engine. They're just basically like, here's all the books, good luck, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's okay, but I mean, you know, if we're trying to learn the Unreal Engine, then we're gonna need a little bit of a process to kind of get through to, you know, get to our end goal, which is to make a game.
Yeah.
Right? So here's my thought line. Here's what I'm thinking. So right now I have like a little notepad open to kind of structure out what we're kind of looking to do, right?
Yeah.
You know, first thing that, you know, I have addressed is what to study. Well, there's a lot, but, you know, in order to make the game, we're gonna need to know certain topics, but um, we don't know exactly what topics to really kind of cover for the most part right at this moment in time. I mean, we kind of do, but yet at the same time, there might be some things that we might be missing. So, um, there's what tutorial games to build. Well, they have some, but you know, I don't really want to build like a 3D tutorial game. That's not necessarily my first goal. My first goal is to build more of a 2D game. So, so I'd prefer more of a, if we can find a tutorial game to build that's 2D, then I'd be more inclined to try to find something like that, right?
Yeah.
But obviously we might need to kind of search around for it because Unreal is going to be kind of more focused on the 3D than the 2D, which, let's face it, and, don't necessarily blame them, but, you know, we might have to work on trying to find something on that, right?
Yeah.
Well, unless you've already found something, but you
No, I
know,
have been trying to find with what little time I've had available, and I
yeah.
haven't found anything really.
Okay. Um, and then the third topic that I wanted to kind of talk about is what do we need? Uh, what do we need for the game to make? Or what do we need to learn? What do we need to use in order to build our game, right? Um, so we have the tools of Unreal, we have the tools of Visual Studio.
Hmm.
So that's the basic tools, okay? Um, so um, so obviously, I what I feel like we should probably do first is let's kind of discuss like what would the first, you know, um, what do you want to do in terms of like the first game do you want to make? Okay.
Hmm.
So we're gonna have to go into like full-on game design, discussing, you know, um, like our end goal obviously is that first game to make, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so, um, I'm not saying that we need to like, you know, build everything now for that. And obviously we can't build the game right now, but obviously we need to figure out, what we're going to be needing to have to, you know, make that game a success, or at least, to finish the product,
Yeah.
right? So, um, at the very beginning, what are we going to be needing to have in order to even, before we even write the first line of code, what are we going to need for it? Okay. Do are you kind of agreeing with me on that? Let's
Yeah.
just kind of talk
Yeah.
about that
Yeah.
for a bit. Okay.
Yes, I'd say so. Yes.
Okay. Um, so here's the thing. Um, one of the first things that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to have a repository for our code. Okay. We're going to need to be able to share our code between each other while we're building this. And for anybody else that might come into the team later, but
Yeah.
for right now, it's just going to be the two of us. So we're going to need, you know, we're going to need to work on source control, right? Bless you.
Thank you. Sorry, holding in a little bit.
No worries. Um, sneeze when you need to, my friend. Sneeze when you need to.
No problem.
Okay. Next thing um, that we may need, scripting we're gonna be working on anyway. So then, that's not much. You know, we've already covered that with the Visual Studio. That's already done.
Yes.
Um, you know, art assets might be a little rough because, you know, we might not know exactly what we want to make per se in the very
Well,
beginning.
yeah. At least for the very beginning, let's plan something small and simple.
Yeah.
Like,
Um. Well, okay. Um. Here's here's a question. You know, the first game that we put out onto like Steam or something like that. The very first thing that we put out there, right? Um. I'm thinking let's you know, if we can put something out on Steam that's free, then for the first game, then let's go ahead and
yeah.
kind of consider doing that.
Yeah, like for the first game, it could
Be-
be Steam, itch.io, Game Jolt, all platforms where you can upload something small and simple up for free. And I believe itch.io does have a tipping system in case anyone actually likes, and people can tip into that.
okay. Steam, it was .io.
Itch.io, and then there's Game Jolt.
Okay.
Both of the two
Um,
last ones are very commonly used by indie devs.
right.
Like they make something
Um,
small, something simple, and they put there. Sometimes they sell there, sometimes they put it for free, and people can tip on the H.io site.
okay. And I know that you don't really want to consider it, but I mean, we have to also consider mobile. Um, as you know, if we're gonna be doing, you know, something simple, then we can also try to put something out for the
Yeah,
mobile
that
phones.
will depend
Okay.
on what we choose to do.
Right. Um. So, uh, next thing we want to do, or you know, do we want to make something that um that's already been built before, or do we want to try to come up with something ours? You know, do we want to create something unique? Um, you know, like for example, um, when we use something that has already been made before, obviously we can't claim any copyright over it. So, like, for example, if we say, let's make Pac-Man or whatever, right? We
Yeah,
can't claim any copyright on it. We can't charge for it,
no,
hence being a free game. Um, but we can use it as a learning tool to get to understand how to make the game, how to make it run. The assets are pretty much already there. We just have to, you know, bring it into Unreal or something like that. Um, so I mean, there's that side of things where, you know, things could be, you know, fairly simple to do because everything is already there for us to kind of use. We just have to make the game. You know, we could do that, or we can come up with something, you know, um, unique ourselves and basically put it out for free. So, which way would you like to kind of lean on that? Like which game to make? Um,
that's a hard question.
already built or new for everyone? Um,
Hmm.
now, my personal opinion on this would be for like a very first game, for something for us to kind of test the waters, see how well we're actually doing. You know, we're working together, we're building something. We're kind of continuing on uh, that road for that final product. And with this being, with the first game being a free game, I'm okay with doing something that has been made before. Okay. That way we get to kind of learn a little bit more about what we're doing than screwing it up for some game that we want to release, right? You know,
Hmm.
um, my concept is like if we're coming up with with a unique game that we come up with, we design the rules, we design the art assets, we design, or we commission out for the music or whatever, you know, then we're gonna want to, um, you know, I would say that we'd want to try to get some money back in so that we can kind of, you know, build off of that. Take that as like a launching point for our next game. You get what I'm saying
Yeah.
on that? We want to kind of take the money that we earn, kind of put it back into the process to try to, you know, get like the next best and the next best and the next best and the next best. I mean, I'm not expecting to hit anything along the lines of like, I'm not expecting to be like an indie dev that suddenly gets like the best next game out there, like Among Us
Yeah, no. That'll
um,
take some time.
or Culture or anything along those lines. Okay. Should we try to aim for it? Of course. You know,
Sooner or later.
you know. But um, but let's face it. Among Us, for example, um, had been out for what was it, like 2 years before it blew up. You know, and no one. It was one of those games that really was under the radar for a lot of people for the longest time, and now it's blown up into something huge. You know. Um, so uh, they now have like VR for it, and they're bringing out new content for it almost on a daily basis, and you have a lot of people playing it almost on a constant basis. And that's from an indie studio, so they made a lot of money off of that game since it blew up. Um, but let's face it, that's one game out of hundreds out there. So, um, while yeah, it's good to kind of aim for that possibility. We might not always, and we might not hit it. So, um, it might not happen. So, um, but if it's a new game, I would want to charge, a little bit for it. Okay,
Yeah.
even if it's like a buck. So, um, so
Yeah.
that's my thought line. What about you?
Um, for practice, I guess we could use something that already exists, sort of as a blueprint, I guess.
Okay.
Like, not a straight up copy of that, but at least use it sort of like a blueprint and, I don't know, make a clone or something.
I mean, a clone isn't, you know, think of it this way. You look on any of like the IOs or Game Jolts and stuff like that. How many copies of like Pac-Man are there? How many copies of Minesweeper are there? How many copies of Tetris are out there? Um, I'm pretty sure that there's probably
Eh,
hundreds.
actually, itch.io has a lot of horror related stuff, actually. And it's not that there aren't, like, straight up, uh, like, copies, more like they used it as a blueprint and tried to throw in their little twist into it.
Right.
Or they made a
Um,
fan version of it, like, they took what was already there and, like, maybe try to throw a little something extra into it, or kind of change it in some way using what was already there.
I mean, changing up the art assets, that's perfectly fine. Changing up the game rules, I mean, you can do that. But um, if we start changing up many of the rules or something like
Like,
that to the
I
point
don't mean
where
like
we're
going
ready,
wild. Like, only change it enough so that it's at least somewhat different,
yeah, then then
or at least use
okay, but
the existing game rules that were there and work off of that. It
yeah,
would depend on what we choose to work with.
right, but
Like shoot 'em ups, for
um,
example, they all generally follow the same rule. For example,
right, um, well, I personally wouldn't really want to work too much on first-person shooters because
no, I didn't say like first person
that's
shooter. I meant shoot 'em ups, like those top
no,
down like R type or
oh, right, okay, I see what you said, yeah,
what's the other
um,
one again? Some or Galaga or
yeah,
like
um,
those are the shoot 'em ups.
yeah, shooter style games, gotcha.
Yeah.
Um,
Then racing game also like doesn't change too much unless you choose to throw in something in it.
right. Um, so, but I mean, if we start changing up, a lot of, like, if we take, like, say, for example, we take the old game of Pac-Man, for example, right?
Mm.
Um, we can remake the entire thing of Pac-Man and put it out on H.io, Game Jolt, so on and so forth, and basically say, hey, this is just a clone. This is our first game that we're putting out there. We're just kind of doing it just to kind of learn. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? You know, um, there's nothing wrong with us kind of using something that has already been made and make a clone of it, okay? As soon as we start trying to charge for it, then obviously that's something wrong for it. But if we make a direct clone, that's that's not that's not a big deal. That's not a problem. Okay, it's been done hundreds of times before, so and this is gonna be our first game that we're kind of working together on to make. So there's nothing wrong with trying to make something that's already been made 100 times before, and you know, if we want to change a little bit of it, we can. But let's not go to too much extremes on that either. Okay, because if we put in too much time into trying to make something innovative on it, then we might as well just put all that time into making a brand new game. Okay, that's my thought line. Okay, because if we put too much time into making Pac-Man innovative,
Yeah,
well, that's
no,
great, but
no,
we're never going to be
that,
able to sell it.
no, I wouldn't do that. I would just use it
So,
sort of as a blueprint, and that's it.
yeah,
Like the rules are there, the like maybe some of the mechanics are already there.
well, what I'm saying is that we use like a game like Pac-Man or R-Type or whatever, or racing game, F-Zero.
Those are
We
just
use
examples I was throwing out.
I know, no, I know. Same here, same here. I'm not saying, hey, let's pick this one game and go with it. I'm just saying, these are all the examples that we could do. Um, but I'm saying is that we take that to learn how to put the assets in, how to make the audio, how to use the player controls, um, how to handle the um, you know, is the game controls always going to work no matter what? Are we going to be encountering any kind of bugs? How do we handle said bugs? It's all going to be a learning process for this first game that we're going to be making, right? So, and I don't necessarily want to be screwing up really hard on, like, audio glitches, gameplay glitches, or anything like that for a game that I want to charge people for, right?
Yeah.
You know, not to say that we're going to be uh, bug free on our first game, our first paid game. I'm not I'm not saying that. Believe me, and I know how often bugs can happen.
Yeah.
Um,
Bugs tend to be
but
inevitable.
here's the thing. I don't want to get to a point where we release a game that is so buggy that people look at the name, our game company name, and go, "Oh, I don't really want to touch this." They just, they released a crap game before. Let's not worry about them anymore.
Yeah,
You
let's
know,
not be the next LJN.
you know, let's try to, at least try to go for quality. You know, based off of what we're making, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't mind taking the time to make like a already made game as a learning tool. Okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, Unreal Engine tutorial, you know, there's, why would we release it on H.io Game Jolt? Probably no reason whatsoever. We probably that's not an aim goal on us. Okay, we want to take something um, and kind of build it ourselves. Go through the process of um, let's go through the process of making UML. Let's go through the process of building the source code control for that one game. Let's build, you know, bar type, you know, and build it to was how it was made. Make those multiple stages. Um, you know, allow for those transitions. Kind of clean it up so that when someone plays that game on H.io, GameJolt, mobile stream, whatever, um, they're gonna go, "Hey, this isn't half bad." That they did a good job with this. Okay, this is a game that I remember. That they did a good job on making this and stuff like that. Great. I look forward to their next game. Okay. And it's gonna be, that game will be free because we can't charge for it, right?
Yeah.
Because we're making a clone or making a copy. Um, and then we take the feedback, we take what we learned for that copied game, and then we put that knowledge into a brand new game. Something that we want to make, we want to charge for, and we want to release to everybody, depending on the platform and stuff like that, right?
Right.
And we start, charging a little bit of money for it. Okay. Does that sound okay to you,
Yes,
or
it
do you
does.
want to go straight, from let's do a tutorial game, that like Unreal Engine has, to making a 99-cent game at the very start?
No, that would not be very smart.
Okay.
Like, we gotta try and get the hang of it.
Okay. Um, so we're gonna kind of go more for an already conceptualized game. So, uh, let me kind of put down some examples. Pac-Man, uh, R-Type,
Mm, In there, like, we would have to like
F-Zero.
say, okay, what genre would we tackle first or mainly?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, eventually, you and I, we've kind of have the same idea of maybe going for an RPG, but let's face it, an RPG for our very first game would be kind of outside of our wheelhouse. I would not be. I mean, I'd
That
rather
would be a
have like,
long-term. project that would have to wait.
Yeah. That's probably several years down the line.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we would need to have, um, I'd want, like a writer, I'd want a, uh, like a musician, an artist kind of thing, like in the team first before we considered, doing anything like that, you know. Even if it's like maybe like 1 or 2 hour RPG game or something like that, then sure, um, but I'd still want to have those kind of resources so that we're not making, crap storyline, crap music, crap art, you know, um, to that, everybody's gonna be like looking at it and going, "What the hell is this?" um, like for example, I don't know if you watched any of my GGG Unity streams at all. I think you got to know me after I was done
Afterwards.
with that.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, um, like right before I stopped working on it, I did quite a bit of trying to like making the art of um, of the characters that were going to be moving around the app map on that, and I knew that it was bad. I'm not an artist. I'm not going to be. You know, I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, this is the best art ever. No.
Yeah.
um, but um, you know, I was looking at it and going, hey, this is fine enough for my very first game that I was planning on releasing. I didn't really have a problem with that because I knew that, you know, um, am I going to be making AAA art, in my very first game? Oh hell no, you know, um, and no one should. So if someone comes up to us and says, "Oh my God, your art is trash," it's like, dude, you're buying like a 99-cent game. What do you expect? you know, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Um, so um, okay, so we're kind of leaning towards that. That's fine. Okay, we're gonna need to study some audio, so we're gonna need to learn how they handle audio. We're gonna need to learn how to do game controls. Um, we're already kind of learning how to handle art assets and stuff like that through that. But one thing that we probably need to do is study their animating.
Mm.
Um, um, Now it could be just as simple as like, hey, you're just moving the object around kind of thing. Like it doesn't have any, you know, it doesn't necessarily have any like direct animation, right? But if we're doing something like, say, Pac-Man, well, Pac-Man still has a little bit of animation to it, you know, not much, but it still has some animation. Um, the ghosts can have little animation to them too. Their eyes could be moving around. Um, so, um, so, we're not, obviously we don't want to be expecting like, um, mocap kind of animation, but we might still need to have a little bit. So we're going to need to know how to go about doing that, right?
Yeah.
Um, what else? Um, we're I would recommend that we make ourselves some form of like a UML, or we structure out um, the code, the engine, you know, what, you know, where is, um, we're gonna need to kind of structure out the old game, okay?
Yeah.
Um, Otherwise, we're gonna be kind of flying into a blind, and you and I could be making the same exact code, and we're gonna run into some problems that way. So it's better for us to kind of come up with some kind of like UML structure of some kind, so we know we can kind of say, oh, hey, I'm gonna handle this particular class, and you're gonna be like, oh yeah, I can handle this other class, right? Um, so we can kind of divvy up our work without too much overlap of work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, I I did one of these back in college for a team project that we did to build. Um, we actually made a clone of Risk, the board game,
Hmm.
and our team basically made a UML of all the classes that we were going to be using, the graphics, the audio, the multiplayer functions, and all that jazz. So, oh, we should probably look into that a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, or actually, hold on. Um, I would. Hmm. Our first game, let's focus more on the single player aspect for the very first game.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's not touch into multiplayer just yet.
Yeah. Um, we could do maybe like a second game that's multiplayer. Or like, a second style, like, hmm,
I don't know.
I
That
know.
will depend if we want to make a multiplayer game to begin with later down the line.
Well, I mean, multiplayer is, um, hmm, one of the, um, let me kind of, um, now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't do single player games, okay? Because let's face it, you and I, we play a lot of single player games. We enjoy single
Yeah.
player games. There's a lot of people that do enjoy single player games, but a lot of people might enjoy more multiplayer games. Now, are we going to be always creating multiplayer games? No, not necessarily. I'm not going to suggest that we should always be making multiplayer games. But at the same time, we shouldn't outright nullify either. Um, like there, okay, take for example, Genshin Impact, right?
Yeah.
You know, that's more of normally one would look at it first off and say, oh, it's a single player game. You're playing through the game and you're playing through the storyline, blah, blah, blah. But there's a multiplayer element to that game. People can kind of combine efforts in Genshin Impact to take on certain challenges or whatnot, right? So I'm not saying that we shouldn't. Uh, if there's a possibility of adding a multiplayer into a game that we make later on, then I would say we should consider it.
Yeah.
Not saying that we should um, definitely go for it, but we should look into that. That so that we can not only make it fun for the single player, to have an enjoyable
Hey
experience.
there, Mika. How you doing?
But to allow for, you know, allow for the game to allow for like multiple people to kind of play it at the same time. Um, Now, obviously, uh, we could design a game that's purely multiplayer. Problem with that though is that we would need to have um, we can't make a game purely multiplayer at the very for a very first game, obviously,
No,
because
I
we
wouldn't
have no
start off from that now.
yeah
I'm
we don't
doing
have
okay.
we don't have a name to ourselves.
No,
You know,
because
no
multiplayer
one.
is trickier than you think.
Right, of course.
My brother, when he was studying over on college, he was made to make a multiplayer project. My goodness, was that
Mhm.
a nightmare for him?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I'm
Yeah,
not saying
I'd
that
say
it's
like leave it as a possible consideration, but let's not make it our main thing.
well, like I said,
As
we're gonna obviously focus on single players at the very beginning. But there might be a call for like, hey, can you make this multiplayer? Or something like that. Like we may have that suggestion later on for one of our games saying, hey, this is a great game. I really wish that I could play it with other people.
hmm, yeah.
So
Right now
so if that
we're discussing what we're gonna do regarding Unreal, our Unreal sessions. Since we finished the quick starts, and we're deciding, okay, how are we gonna move forward right now, and that's what we're discussing now.
yep.
After that, I would stop, go eat something, and then start a new stream where I start playing a game.
Indeed.
In this case, it would be Honkai.
Right. Um which I accidentally was doing yesterday, which I'm like, oh my god, stupid me. Um but whatever. Okay, so in terms of, obviously, we don't want to start off with multiplayer,
No,
for a good reason. We don't have a name to ourselves yet. We don't have like a large following for the games that we make, so we don't really
and we
have,
don't have enough
yeah,
knowledge for that either.
right, you know. But let's, but at the same time, we shouldn't, um, we can't state outright that we're never going to touch it either, okay? Because there's always going to be, uh, there might be a time where we look at a game and go, hey, this might actually work even better with a multiplayer aspect and touch to the game.
Yeah.
Sure, we
Mm,
can get away with single player,
mm,
but it might be better with a multiplayer touch.
yeah. We could
I'm
make
not
it
saying
an
that's
option for multiplayer.
right. I'm saying we do single player because that's where our wheelhouse is going to be.
Yeah.
Okay, we design the game to work with single player. We get it to work with single player, and you know we flesh it out so we don't have any problems with single player. And then we add in the multiplayer layer into it
Yeah.
and
Sort of
see.
what my time on Sandrock did. They started single player, is only single player, for quite some time, and now just recently, now that the single player experience is nice and ironed out, now they're adding the multiplayer.
Hmm.
So you're going for
And
something along those lines, I'm guessing.
in a sense, yes, because let's face it. If we never touch upon multiplayer at all, then we're never going to expand upon that. We're never going to learn. Okay. I'm not saying that, you're right. Multiplayer can be a really challenging area of study. You're talking about, you know, allowing for players to try to connect into, another person's game. Okay. And that might be different based off of mobile, Steam, you know, uh, H.O. You might actually have to try to build your own kind of client to allow for that connection in.
Yeah,
which,
and the
you know,
servers necessary for that.
right, the servers to connect to it, trying to get past firewalls, trying to get past, um, any kind of like, um, virus protections, making sure that people have a stable connection, passing the information between, those two said computers. I mean, let's face it, there's a lot that needs to go into a multiplayer
Oh yeah.
facet of a game. I'm not saying that that's going to be easy. Hell no. Hell no, that's not going to be easy. But the thing is that, um, I know that, um, we're gonna have some people that are gonna be like, "Hey, I would love to see this as a multiplayer." And to be honest, there might be some games that, I make that I could see as, "Hey, this could be a really good multiplayer game." Take GGG for example, that it made,
Mhm.
or tried to make. Um, at that time, I was just making it as a single player, as a kind of like a puzzle real-time strategy style game, right?
Mhm.
But the thing is that I could see it being used, or I could see it being changed into something that could allow for a multiplayer facet in there. I could see one player versus three, in that game, for example. I could see, um, allowing for the players to control each of the actors in the main city to gather resources for that game. So, I could see, potential for multiplayer elements for that game. What I was, was I going to do that immediately? Oh, hell no. But the thing is that I could see it. I could see it as a potential. And I know that if I open that up to allow for others to, um for multiplayer element to it, then that means that you're gonna have people that are gonna be like, "Hey, I just got this game. It is fantastic. There's a multiplayer aspect. You guys should download it and join me." There's that word of mouth to it, and that's gonna help drive sales even more. Think of it that way.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it gonna be easy? No. Um, but will it help us in the long run? Quite possibly, yes. If not more so. So, um, but yeah. So, um, so maybe like later down the line for our game making, um, we'll look into more multiplayer. But for right now, we'll hold it. We'll hold off for now. Um, or if you want to study it, we can. But who knows? Maybe it's super easy with Unreal. Probably
I
not.
don't think
Um,
so.
no, I don't think so either. But obviously you know, um, these engines, the you know, as development continues along, there's always going to be people that are going to try to make things a little bit easier for themselves, and therefore making it easier for everybody else, depending on the tools that they make. So, you know, 1 year, 2 year down the line, there might be a really easy tool for us to use to allow for multiplayer connections. So we might need to, and we could see that and could use it. So, um, and we're gonna do it right now? No.
Nope.
but but it's something that we shouldn't necessarily veto right off the bat. Okay,
Mhm.
that's a couple of years down the line, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, okay. What else do you feel we should probably consider?
Well, let's see.
Probably gonna need to study up on level transition.
Level transition. Let's see. Did I not see something?
Let's see.
No, those were the paper 2D flipbook.
Let's see, what else? Yeah, I'm going through the documentation and seeing like if there's something here that you know, we should kind of consider. Ooh, yeah, that's one thing that we should probably look into a little bit more is how they manage their AIs.
That'll depend if we'll use an already existing AI or a custom made.
The problem is with like an already existing AI is that you don't know what it might do. So if it's like maybe if it's something like a skeletal AI where you can just kind of change the what it does, then great. Sure, we can probably use something along those lines. But if it's something like, hey, this is what a ghost does in Pac-Man, and we put it in and suddenly it starts like flying off into the sky or something like that, then we'd be like, maybe not. you know. So let's see. Other things that we're probably going to need to worry about is object collision. And just general physics, and we might need general physics. Like if we do like a platformer, like say for our very first game we'll make Super Mario Brothers or something like that, right? We're gonna need to have a little bit of physics to that, right?
Yeah, I think there was
Not a
a
whole.
section that spoke about collision.
Yeah.
I think that was more oriented at 3D collision. Well, who says it can't be applied to 2D depending on how we go about it?
Right.
Or 2.5D,
Mm-hmm.
which is another alternative.
Right. Let's see.
I don't know if you ever played a 2.5D game.
Kind of. I think I've played like one or two that are very similar in nature.
The best example I can think of is Klonoa. That one is a 2.5 game, a pretty good 2.5D game.
Yeah. I think probably the closest one that is probably 2.5 for me was probably Bastion.
Which one?
I think it's called Bastion if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah, I think I remember that game. That was like pseudo isometric 2.5D game. Yes.
Yeah. So
I did play that game once before on my brother's account. Pretty good game.
Yeah, I bet. Yep, it's an enjoyable one.
Yeah, Bastion, Transistor's another good example. Made by the same guys.
But yeah, I mean, we can definitely see about trying to work on that a little bit. So, um, let's see. Now, one of the things that they kind of talked about a little bit that I was kind of curious about is I think, the Unreal Engine had something like a blueprint.
In the launcher, the on the game section, there is a 2D side scroller option
Hold on a second.
and a straight
I
up
need,
side scroller one.
okay, I need to use the restroom, so I'll be
Go
right
on ahead.
back. And we'll continue discussing. So, be right back.
Yeah, go on ahead.
I'm gonna go ahead and leave the audio on so you can kind of, everybody else can kind of hear you. So,
Yeah, and I'll think of what you say in the meantime. Now let's see. Like I was saying, in the launcher there are those two templates for side scroller and 2D, like straight up templates. Will they work for making something? I don't know. And it's anyone in my chat, like, since we are considering making like a clone of something that already exists, what would you like to see us make? It has to be something simple too, because we are just learning. We are like trying to figure out how the platform works. That's why we're looking at the simple stuff. We're also figuring out like how we're gonna go about it, since Unreal is exactly known for the 2D aspect side of things, and James leaned more towards that. What should we make? Maybe I should also keep an eye on Jim's chat just in case someone talks there. Let's see. Because for 2D, it seems like platformer or a shoot 'em up, an arcade kind of game. Although I've never been much of an arcade gamer myself. Let's see. I'm also going through some of the website trying to see. Maybe I think I found something that might work for the level transition. I will need to show it to Jim when he gets back. And no, there's not a straight up level transition thing. No, that's levels are kind of dynamic worlds. That's in the case that everything's connected. It's loading in and out parts of the world. That's not exactly what I'm looking for. Your level transition would be okay. You finish a level, you move on forward to the next one, like, sort of like Mario does. Like you reach the castle, okay, unload that level, load the new level, put them in there. That would be level transition, and I'm trying to find that, but the closest thing I could find is managing multiple levels, which might need to look into with him. Beyond that, I don't really know. I'm also still thinking about what game we should actually clone. It has like Mario's a simple game. Running, jumping, breaking maybe blocks if we want to. Galaga clone maybe, R-type clone. I actually tried making an I shoot him up once before for a game jam. It was gonna be spring theme, but That's when my hard drive died, and that's when I got demotivated from making games to begin with. Jim talked me to jumping into this, and I'm kind of glad I did. Although now we have to learn the Unreal Engine 4, since we couldn't think of any other better engine that's easily accessible. Like RPG Maker would have been a great choice, since that has tools to start making like RPG with pre-made things. But, well, that thing ain't free. The engine needs to be bought. Let's see. Definitely not. We're not gonna jump into RPGs just yet. That is, I believe, something more ambitious. And we can, unless we can think of like a short-ish RPG, like 1 to 2 hours, which is not exactly easy, since RPGs are mostly like story-driven, and those stories tend to be long for the most part. At least from the games I've played, I've never played a short RPG. I've played short platformers, short shoot 'em ups, some short racing games, puzzle games as well, which is another option. Making it a puzzle game instead to practice. After all, puzzle games can be of anything: physics, interaction, collision. I've seen some people do that, like make a free puzzle game and to experiment with that sort of stuff. Now, the thing would be like there are no enemies unless we choose to add some like hostile entity. But then that falls into the AI part, which I'm not really finding. Oh, I did find a work with audio. I'm gonna have to share some of these links with Jim. I don't know if they are in engine though. I'm hoping that some of this stuff is in engine, and I'm gonna have to look into. I did find managing multiple levels, which I hope within it there might be level transition. I can add an existing level, creating an empty sub level, splitting off sub levels, moving actors between levels. That one must be the one we're looking for. Let me have a quick look at it. Well, you can copy actors from your active level, then switch active levels. To paste actors, there is a simple way to move actors between levels. Select the actor you want to move to the new level in the scene outliner or in the viewport. Right click on the level in the levels window, then select move selector to level from context menu. Press Ctrl S to save. Don't know if that's exactly what we're looking for. After all, we will need that to happen once we reach a certain point or certain conditions are met. I might need to look up some other tutorials. If anyone knows, like, better tutorials outside of the Unreal page that isn't a video, because like I don't want to risk having videos on the YouTube site that could get me into trouble. I like send me the link or something for those tutorials. I have to do it for free as well, so it's easy access for the both of us. I mean, I'm not in conditions to pay anything. That would be great, like especially about getting started, like on making like a game, particularly 2D games. Like Jim said, he's more of a 2D game kind developer. I'm a mixed developer myself. I'm okay with either 2D or 3D. Though I dig around mostly with 3D platformers. Or 2.5D, might I say.
Oh, I'm
Well,
back. Don't worry, I was kind of listening to you talking, so I'm not saying that I'm unopposed to doing a 3D. I'm just saying that we don't necessarily have like the art assets or skills to really do a good 3D game.
Well,
So,
there are more
you know,
assets available for indie devs for 3D than there is 2D.
I mean,
There are 2D
actually,
ones.
I kind of doubt that actually.
Whenever I
For
look for
Unreal,
like whenever I was developing on the Unity side, whenever I was looking for okay, where can I find some assets that might be available for public use that aren't like that are royalty free and stuff, I would generally find mostly like 3D stuff and a
well,
bit of 2D.
well, you have to remember that Unity and Unreal are typically geared to 3D development. Okay, even Unity itself isn't necessarily. They didn't necessarily start off, with a 2D development on Unity to begin with. It was more of a 3D utility than it was meant for a 2D. Same with Unreal. I'm not saying that there isn't any assets along those lines, but um, for those particular engines, yes, you're right. There probably is more 3D than 2D. But to say that there's more 3D than 2D out there in the general world that you can use, no,
Yeah,
that's
no, that
incorrect.
I mean they're available
So,
like easy access. So you don't need to spend a lot of money to gain access to that stuff to use it.
yeah. Well, I'm saying that there's also assets that we can find in the 2D that is outside of both Unity and Unreal that we can,
Yeah,
gain
there
access
are a
to.
few.
So,
Yes, there are a few.
um, but
As
at this,
I was looking through the stuff, I think I found something about the audio. I just don't know if it's in engine or not. It is within the Unreal documentation. It's called working with audio. That you want at one moment asked.
yeah, there was working with audio. Um, there's animating characters and objects that I was kind of talking about.
Yeah,
Um, there
there's mentioned
is
multiple levels as well, but I don't know if it has that level transition or anything.
well, there's what's called managing multiple levels,
Yeah, that's the one I just said.
and there's change default levels and collaborate with sub levels. So I'm sure that those are probably topics that are covering how to transition from one level to another, especially managing multiple levels. I would imagine that that's something that is that we'll need to kind of deal with. There's topics such as AI components um, in the documentation that we could probably look into. There's physics components. There's uh,
Yeah, at least there
camera and light,
is an easy
camera and
tool
light.
for 2D animation at least.
Yeah. Um, let's see. Don't think there was anything that much more in terms of the of that. I mean, there is, and, there's also source control on Unreal Engine that they talk about how to access those features, which obviously we'll need to set up so that we can share our um, code that we make and the like. Now, concerning the game, like I said, it doesn't really matter too much, what we make. The puzzle game that you were talking about before, that's perfectly fine. I don't mind that either. Um, but we should have something that kind of pushes what we can do. So, anything that has like character animation, audio, um, you know, uh, trying to do like fluid animation, physics. You know, if we can find, if we do a game that has like all that, in the game all at once for our very first game, then that's going to kind of push our knowledge on it, or push our knowledge of it, so that we can work with that in our next game. So,
Mm.
um, um, so, um, so in some ways, don't get me wrong, if um, obviously our end goal, what we want to make, okay, the games that we want to make is where we need to kind of keep on going towards, right? That's our main goal. You know, get to a point where we are knowledgeable enough to make our own games the way we want to make them at any time that we want to make them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we should also be comfortable, both you and I, to be able to do, everything together. Like if you're out sick, for example, and we need to get our like the audio done, and you were the main person that was doing audio, then I should be able to kind of step in and, you know, uh, you know, build the audio myself without too much trouble. Okay.
Mm.
If we get to the point of like one person is the main lead of handling, the game controls, and another person handling the audio, then we might get into a weak point. Like if one is out sick for the day, and we need to get like the game controls finished, and the other person doesn't know how to go about doing that, then um, we're gonna kind of struggle, for the most part, right?
Right.
You get what I'm saying on that?
Yeah.
Um, Now, don't get me wrong. Some people might, like you might be fantastic when it comes to level transitioning. Where I might struggle at it a little bit. Okay, but um, you know, uh, it shouldn't. You know, I should still be able to kind of step up into it and still get a level transition done myself. No matter what. Okay. We shouldn't necessarily be like, hey, we're gonna put all of our eggs in one basket. Okay. I don't really want that to happen. At least at least right now. Okay. We're gonna be you and I, we're gonna be putting on a lot of hats, my friend. Okay.
Yeah.
And don't worry too much about the AIs, because I studied quite a bit of it in college. So, and I'll teach you how to handle basic AIs, if necessary. So, you don't have to worry too much about that. So, now when it comes to more advanced AIs, where it's like, hey, these AIs are black box. You don't know what they're gonna do. Yeah, well, I haven't gotten that far in my studies, but I would, with the progression of AIs, and everything getting, developed and pushed and, expanded upon, then we're gonna need to be comfortable with um, looking at, looking at future concepts and going, how can we actually incorporate that in our game? Kind of thing. Like, um, like, take for example, we want to make an RPG, right?
Right.
Well, what if we design an RPG? Like, the people are kind of working on it now to the point where, like, you know, the AIs are their own characters. And if you talk to them and you say, hey, Where's the local inn? You know, the AI decides, should I tell the person where the inn is, or should I tell them that they can just go, walk off a cliff? You know, how's the AI going to respond to that, right? That's something that, and uh, most likely the game developers are currently trying to work on.
Yeah.
There's
I think the closest thing there
innovations.
is right now to that is Baldur's Gate 3, where the characters actually react to how you look and if you're even wearing anything.
Right, right. Um, but the question is that are they leaving that as something that the programmer put in? Like, are these the kind of reactions that the programmer themselves put in, or are they something that is kind of decided by the AI itself on how to react? You know, um, what I mean by black box is that you put in something, you put in something into the black box of an AI, and you don't know what the outcome might be.
Yeah, kind of
Okay.
like the
It,
xenomorph from Alien Isolation. That thing's unpredictable, and it's a learning AI.
hmm
That thing actually learns how you hide, how you move around,
hmm
and reacts upon it.
Yep. So, not saying that that's gonna be like a perfect AI overall, but
No,
I mean,
nothing's
it's
perfect.
yeah, it's an example of that. And as they continue to expand upon AIs and how to actually work AIs, then that might be something that we may need to do. Like, for our future RPG, we may need to like look into doing those kind of techniques later on down the line. But let's face it, that's years down the line.
Yeah.
But, I myself wouldn't mind looking into that. I've been fascinated with AI, but, never had a opportunity to work too much with it. So, you know, took a couple classes, but that's about it.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I tried taking a class, but it was so plagued with politics that I just dropped it.
hmm, well, that's unfortunate. Um, but yeah, you know, uh, we can cover AIs, obviously later because I mean AIs are, um, you know, that's if we actually need, like enemies to kind of think for themselves on where to go. Um, you know, so one of the professors that I had at college, he basically said that some of the AIs that you most likely see in video games would be more state machines than anything else. They're just, um, you give, uh, the AI would see an obstacle and it would look at the programmer's code to determine where to go. There isn't there isn't really any kind of intelligence
Yeah,
to being
pathfinding
the
pretty
artificial,
much.
right? Um, so there isn't, you're basically, you are basically programming in the steps that an AI would take to get from point A to point B, kind of thing. Whereas he was basically saying that true AI would make that decision for itself. Okay. It wouldn't be like looking at your code and going, hey, should I go left or should I go right? And if you basically program it in and say, hey, you're always going to be going to the left, then it's going to go, oh, okay, I'll go left. You know, a true AI would be like going, I don't need to ask you whether or not I need to go left or right. I'll make my own decision of going left or right. That kind of thing. So, or it might decide, hey, I get more results going to the right than I go to the left, so I'm gonna go to the right. That kind of thing,
Mm.
right? Or like I'm following a player and they always go to the right. I'm gonna follow the player because that's my target. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, so that kind of thing. So, but we're going over, my friend. I know that you need to get yourself something to eat and before
Yeah.
the before food. But um, okay, so we have a certain amount of information that we need to look at now, or at least I have kind of like a little bit of a list in on my notepad for what we may need for a basic game. Now we need to kind of find the topics in Unreal concerning those, and then we need to figure out like a tutorial game that we can make to try to um, that might need to use all of those for the most part. So right.
Right.
So this might be like a day or two to try to figure um, all this out for the most part. But it's okay because that's what we're here for. Uh, it's not going to be a simple like, oh yeah, let's go right into coding and we'll be able to smash out our new game like immediately. It's like, no, probably not a good idea. you know, I mean, unless you have the experience, then great. But you know, um, you know, uh, I wouldn't necessarily recommend, um, you know, jumping into the deep end of the pool if you're not ready to swim. So, just saying.
Hmm. Okay.
Sound like a plan?
Yeah.
Okay. Then let's go ahead and close it down for tonight.
Yeah.
We'll pick this back up again tomorrow. Um, and we'll see about like what pages to look at. Um, if they're um, like maybe tomorrow. Um, I'll hop online a little early. Um, and we can maybe try to search around for some tutorials that we could do. Sound like a
Yeah.
plan? I'll
Yeah.
like hop
Definitely need to
into a stage or
just
something.
find and decide how what we're gonna be looking at on the stream and in what order.
Yeah. I still need to kind of take care of unemployment and continue the job hunt. But at the
Yeah.
very least, I can take some time to look at potential tutorials that we could do. Okay.
Yeah. If we need to change the schedule, let me know. Like maybe less days or something. Just let me know.
Oh, I have no problem with the um like I have no problem with our Unreals being every day. Obviously, if I do get, if I if someone does hire me at some point in the future, then yeah, you will be the first to know about it. Okay, or one of the first to know. So, okay,
Yeah.
because obviously my stream schedule would change. If I get a full-time job. So, um, there's no question about that. But okay. And I
Yeah.
would expect the same from you if you found yourself a job, then, um, you know, I'm not gonna expect you to be, um, streaming daily when you're still trying to, work a full-time job. you
Yeah.
know, so, don't stress yourself out too much. So, okay.
All right.
I mean,
Let me get
you,
myself something to cheat.
yep, you go on, and enjoy Star Rail.
Sure thing.
I haven't really. Well, here, I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and shut the recording down so people don't go, what's going on here? So stop in the recording. Um, but for Star Rail, I haven't done much in the storyline, to be honest.
You haven't jumped to the new world
Um,
yet?
well, I have, but I'm only like at the very beginning of the new world. Um, right now I've been doing a lot of um, working on character development. You know, getting more. You know, working on like the talents, the relics, the um, ascensions and stuff like that of all the characters that I have, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, I have to progress on the story in my case because for some of my better characters, I don't have access to their ascension yet.
Yeah.
And right now for Fu, for example, my character is keeping my team alive.
Mm,
She's locked at level 40, and
yeah.
the enemy that's supposed to drop that hasn't shown up for me yet.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing it's further into the story.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna end up finishing up the museum and then hopping back onto the story.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. I finished off the museum myself, and I was like, oh my god. What was kind of explained? I mean, you saw it. You
Yeah,
saw
I
it.
saw a little bit of it.
So, yeah. So you're gonna be facepalming quite a bit. Um. But yeah, for the most part, I was doing a lot of working on relics. Um, I did World 3 of the simulated universe, so that
Oh,
was fun.
oh, I still haven't beaten that one.
Ugh.
Yeah,
But have you tried
I
or
have tried it.
okay?
I have played the worst of luck when with the blessings. Like none of the blessings I get benefit the characters I have,
Mm, okay.
and I don't have like a proper team with follow up attacks. Like I only have one, well, two characters if I count March counterattack.
Yeah,
Then I have heard of with follow up attacks, and then I got nobody else that does it.
yeah,
Most of my
yeah.
characters
I hear.
either buffers or debuffers.
Okay, yeah, yeah. I hear you on that one. So, I mean, debuffers would probably be pretty good against um, hard at the very end of that for the most part, maybe.
Yeah, I know what boss is at the end of it because I saw the list of enemies, and
Mm-hmm.
I can't reach him because of the enemies before him are just so tanky that the debuffs aren't enough to kill them fast enough.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I hear you on that one.
Yeah, I might
I
need to
hear you.
work on some relics maybe, or I don't
I
know.
mean, you might. Yeah, I mean, it. Uh, might need to just kind of work on just getting jades
Yeah,
and tickets just to get um allow for more you know purchases for the most part.
yeah. I am
Um,
trying to get more stellar jades to
yeah,
get the get some more characters. Hopefully with
yeah,
with follow up attacks this time.
yeah.
I feel those are the
Um,
most efficient since they attack multiple times.
mhm.
And if the
Well,
blessing of
depending
the
on
hunt really benefits those follow up attackers. And there is another blessing that really benefits the follow up attackers.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't, normally. when I was looking at the blessings, I was just kind of looking at the fact that it can add its own unique attack that helps you in taking out the enemies. Um,
Yeah, if you get
which I
enough
kind of,
blessings of a specific type, yeah.
well, I mean, every blessing that you go for, like, preservation, destruction, so on and so forth, everybody has their own unique attack assigned to it. Okay, you just have to get more. You have to kind of aim for those specific blessings. I know that they might not necessarily work for your characters that
Yeah.
much,
So
but
far,
you
all
kind of
the
have,
blessings I get don't work for my characters.
yeah.
More than half
Uh,
the time, I'm getting either for shield characters, of which I only have one, or
mhm,
for follow-up attack. That's what I'm getting most of the time.
right. I mean, just kind of aim for the blessings, that that might not necessarily work for your characters, but just focus on those blessings just so you can get uh the the main attack for it. If you just kind of cut, like, oh, this one works for my character, that one works for my character, that one, then you're never gonna get those special attacks that it does.
No.
So you need to kind of focus on getting that one particular blessing, you know, to unlock that, which can be kind of irritating because sometimes the RNG doesn't help you out on giving you those particular blessings to begin with.
Yeah, RNG hates me.
I hear you. I know the RNG wasn't really happy with me last night as well, um, but yeah, the so that's kind of what I was kind of dealing with. But obviously, yeah, you might need, sometimes it's the characters. So
Yeah, at least I'm glad
um,
that on the and when you send your characters, you get the resources. I don't know what it was called now anymore.
assignments.
Yeah, the assignments. I'm glad they added two particular resources I was having a hard time getting.
Mm,
That I don't know what they call that green stick and green block.
right.
Those I couldn't. It was I need. I have like several characters that need that for talent improvement.
Gotcha.
I'm glad they added that.
Yeah. Yeah. Indeed. Indeed. So,
All right, I better get something to eat now.
yeah. Yep. All right.
All right,
See you later, man.
see you later. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Okay, there goes the stage, and I'm going to close down the stream for now. I'll be back in about like 30 minutes to an hour. I'm gonna get something to eat real quick. I'll get something simple because this took a little longer than it should have. And apparently my brother's not have his phone on him to see the message, or when I asked him to do me a little favor to have something ready by when I was done. But oh well, and because of that, I don't have that much time. I'm not gonna go into meteor shower because I'm not gonna be able to decide on who I'm gonna meteor shower. I'll meteor shower on my next stream, right? So that goes on now. So if anyone has a suggestion of okay, what the first game should we tackle? Like, what first kind of genre should we clone? Like, should we clone a Mario game? Should we clone a Pac-Man game or an R-Type um or something along those lines? Like, what kind of game should we try and clone first to like get the best learning experience from? Leave it down in the comments below. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed your stream, and I hope to see you all next time. See you in a little bit. Bye.